Want you guys to go ahead and do is we're going to be looking at the practice at the end of the notes. And so I'm going to go ahead and do them with you so you guys can go ahead and do your own work on your own. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is on the internet, get ptable.com. Just type in ptable.com and you'll get a periodic table. This is the one you're going to be using for the rest of the year. So it says, write the element symbol, all right? Or we would know it as the element notation. Okay, so in your notes, we see you have X, Z, and A. Okay, so this is going to be the element symbol. You have the atomic number, and then you have mass number, and you also have charge. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look at the first problem. If I have 3 protons, 4 neutrons, and 3 electrons. Well, the question is which one do I want to use first? Well, if we look at what this Z is, this actually stands for the atomic number. And that equals my number of protons. So I'm going to look to see, well, I have 3 protons. And if I go to look on my periodic table, I'm looking to see which one has the atomic number 3, which we see right here is lithium. Okay, so I'm going to write lithium. That's my element symbol. And then I'm going to write the atomic number of lithium, which is my number of protons. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be putting is my mass number, which equals my protons plus my neutrons. So all I have to do is look at my protons and neutrons, and that's going to give me my mass number, 7, because 3 plus 4 equals 7. Now, when I look at charge, what I'm looking at is my protons versus my electrons. So it's protons minus electrons. Okay. The way I think about it is if I have 3 protons, I have 3 positive particles. If I have 3 electrons, I have 3 negative particles. Each positive cancels out the negative. And so if I look at what's left, I have no positives or negatives. So technically, my charge is 0. Now, I do not have to write 0. I'm only writing that just so you guys can see. When we go ahead and write the shorthand version, we write the name of the element and then the mass number. So the shorthand should be lithium 7. So I want you to go ahead and pause this video and try the next 2. Okay, so to figure out what this element is, we have to look at protons. So we're looking for a number 17. Well, it's going to be chlorine. And what told me it was chlorine is my 17 protons. And if you're looking on the ptable.com, 17 is my protons. So that's my atomic number. Now, when I go to find my mass number, it's my protons plus neutrons. So you should have 35. And then if I look at my charge, I have 17 positives and I have 17 negatives. Therefore, my charge is going to be 0 because each one's going to cancel each other out. So your answer should be, for shorthand, chlorine 35. Now for the last one, let's go ahead and do it. Now, if you would have seen from the first 2, you're looking at your protons to see what the element is. So if I have 11 protons, by looking at my screen, okay, and looking at the P table, sodium is my element, and that is my atomic number is 11. My mass number is going to be my protons plus my neutrons, so it's 24. And I have no charge because I have 11 positives and 11 negatives. So my shorthand symbol is going to be sodium. Oops. It's going to be sodium 24. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it the opposite way. Well, what if I give you guys, Okay, so here we're going to determine protons, neutrons, and electrons by looking at an element notation. Well, we know this number gives me my number of protons. So my protons is 26. I know this number gives me my protons plus my neutrons. Well, I already know my protons are 26, so 26 plus my neutrons equals 56. So treat this like a math problem. To find n, I have to subtract 26 from 56. So my neutrons is 30. And assuming, since I have no number here, my charge is 0, so my protons have to equal my electrons. And the reason being is because 26 positives equals 26 negatives. That would give me a charge of 0. So anytime my charge is 0, just remember, protons equal your electrons. Go ahead and try the next one. Okay, so for bromine, your protons, you should have said you had 35, because once again, my atomic number, and this tells me my protons. To find my neutrons, okay, I have to subtract 35 from the mass number, which is going to be 47. And now I have a charge of -1. Well, you got to think of positives and negatives. So I'm going to go ahead and make this neutral first. Okay, so the trick is make it neutral, then adjust your electrons accordingly. So I have 35 and 35, and that would give me a charge of 0. But the problem is I have a -1. Okay, and I can only change my electrons because if I change my protons, I change what the element is. So I don't want to touch the protons. So I need to either add or take away electrons. Well, if I'm -1, I'm going to have more electrons than I am protons. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 electron. So it should be 35 protons, 36. And if you look at the charge, I have one more negative than I do positive. Okay, so I'm looking at aluminum. I have 13 protons. Neutrons, I just subtract my atomic number from my mass number, which is 14. And now I have a +3 charge. So I'm going to keep my protons positive. I'm going to go ahead and start off neutral. So I'm just going to make my electrons equal my protons. This would give me a charge of 0. But the problem is I have a +3. So I cannot change my protons because if I do, I change the element itself. So I either have to add or take away to get a +3. Well, I should have more protons, so I have to take electrons away. So I'm going to go ahead and say I have 10 electrons. Okay.